Democrats claiming Russian disinformation about Hunter Biden's emails. Cuomo undermines vaccine trust. Pelosi sets a COVID relief deadline. And China's threatening to take American hostages. Welcome, friends, to the Buck Sexton Show. Can you feel it? 2 weeks, 15 days, Election Day. It is upon us. We've already had tens of millions of people cast their ballots, and we shall have to see how that all shakes out. But it is go time, crunch time. Get ready for it. We got a debate this Thursday, assuming it actually happens, assuming that the Biden campaign doesn't just call a continuous lid, as the journos call it, until Election Day. So we'll talk more about that. But first, it's remarkable. Let's just start with that. It's stunning. When you see what the media has managed just over the last few days, what they have done here. I mean, when you dig into this a little bit, it's so clear. It's exactly as you would have thought. We went from there is no Hunter Biden story with the help of social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter, straight up shutting it down. So there is no Hunter Biden story. To, come on, who wouldn't sell dad's role in foreign policy to the highest bidder? It's no big deal. To then when we saw even more emails, it's Russian disinformation. In less than a week. The intellectual cowardice and ethical corruption of the mainstream media remains absolutely legendary. And with demands to prove the Hunter emails are real, we see many people who are not only changing their reporting standards on a whim, but are happy to sound like idiots if it's helpful to slow the Hunter Biden bad news avalanche. Because, folks, let's be real here. At this point, only a moron actually believes these emails are fake, a moron or a liar. And then, of course, that's somebody who doesn't really believe what they're saying. You can't actually think this is unreal. What, did the Russians sneak into Hunter's bedroom and take photos of him asleep with a crack pipe out? Did the Russians manage to piece all of this together, send it all from their email addresses? It all lines up, the dates, everything. They planted a laptop, and then nobody involved is disavowing this. There's been no public statement of, oh, this isn't true. I can tell you this much. If there were emails out there that were Russian disinformation, that were fake, guess what? The Biden campaign would say these are outright lies. Just like the Trump campaign said about Russian collusion, that it was an outright lie. They said it from day one, and it was. The media ran with that anyway. They didn't care. With the Hunter Biden situation, they're hoping that the media will do the heavy lifting for Joe Biden in the last weeks here of the campaign, and that he won't have to answer any questions, that he won't be forced to address this. Well, that's going to be kind of hard for them, though. We're at least going to make it as difficult for Biden and the Biden camp, the Democrats, as we possibly can, because it's so obvious that these emails are real, that this scandal is real, that no one can really stand up against this in debate. And so that's why we get to the disinformation. Now, here's what they say. There are a lot of people that became overnight experts on social media in disinformatia or disinformatia. I think it's disinformatia, the Russian word for this, right? Because all of a sudden that was the theory used to justify why Donald Trump won. There was disinformation out there, and that was the fake news. You remember that, fake news. And it was disinformation being put on Facebook that led to Trump's victory. That was their whole story. Well, one of the concepts that you have to become familiar with here, and this is true about how the KGB used to do things, is they would take some true and some fake and mix them in together. But these are just standard propaganda tactics. You want to put in 3 truths and a lie so that it seems credible when you get to the lie. Here's the problem with that approach to what we're seeing with Hunter Biden. This is very obvious if you're going to prove it's a lie. There's no way to hide this. There's no means, there's no explanation for this. given what we already have, given the information that's already there. And just to make sure that there's not some top super secret investigation of this going on to prove that it's disinformation, the director of national intelligence, Ratcliffe, was on TV this morning, and he was just saying, look, there's nothing that we have. The intelligence community, which the left always relies on as their super secret experts that will leak things that just help Democrats, right? But, it came from the intelligence community. I used to be in the intelligence community. It's 10% smart, good patriots, 90% bureaucrat morons who vote Democrat overwhelmingly. Just going to tell you the truth. But here's what DNI Ratcliffe has to say about this disinformation dodge that the Democrats are running. Play 6.
Some of the people that complain the most about intelligence being politicized are the ones politicizing intelligence. And unfortunately, in this case, it is Adam Schiff, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, who, as you pointed out on Friday, said that the intelligence community believes that Hunter Biden's laptop and the emails on it are part of some Russian disinformation campaign. Let me be clear. The intelligence community doesn't believe that because there's no intelligence that supports that. And we have shared no intelligence with Chairman Schiff or any other member of Congress that Hunter Biden's laptop is part of some Russian disinformation campaign. It's simply not true. And this is exactly what I said I would stop when I became the director of national intelligence. And that's people using the intelligence community to leverage some political narrative. And in this case, apparently Chairman Schiff wants anything against his preferred political candidate to be deemed as not real and is using the intelligence community or attempting to use the intelligence community to say there's nothing to see here. Don't drag the intelligence community into this. Hunter Biden's laptop is not part of some Russian disinformation campaign, and I think it's clear that the American people know that.
Now, there's nothing in the intelligence community that the director of national intelligence cannot see, cannot ask for a briefing on. He sits atop it. He answers only to the president. So why is Adam Schiff going out there and saying this? Because Adam Schiff is a practiced and shameless liar. We knew it all throughout the alleged Russia collusion campaign, and now we see it once again with this Russian disinformation. You notice how the libs have returned to their old tricks here. Just as I said they would, Russia, 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 all over again. A variation of it, but still using this specter of Russia constantly involved in, constantly trying to undermine our elections and our electoral processes. This is baseless, but it was baseless the first time, and it gave the Democrats and the Hillary voters something of a respite from reality, which is what they were looking for, and then they weaponized it. At first, it was just the explanation for why Hillary lost. Oh, it was the Russians. Fine, it doesn't really count. But then in a matter of days, for the general public, I think this was the plan from the left all along, in a matter of days, it turned into, now we have to overturn the results of the election because of that Russian disinformation. So the fable that Democrats told themselves so they could sleep at night after Hillary Clinton got crushed by Trump in 2016 became their reality, right? They transformed that perception into something that they could use against the Trump administration. And they're trying to do the same thing now. It's laughable. You will not see any intelligent person on television who is also honest. You have to be, those are the only qualifications, honest and intelligent. If you're informed on this issue and you are those two other qualities, you would never, ever allow people to go around saying that this was Russian disinformation, because there's absolutely no evidence for it whatsoever, and it would be nearly impossible for the Russians to pull that off. How would that even work? And think about what the blowback would be. Do you know why I knew all along that Russia collusion was a lie? And some of you who have been with me for years now listening to the show, show going on almost 8 years at this point. I think it'll be 8 years this spring. But I looked at what their allegations were, what the Democrats were alleging against President Trump. And I only needed to know two things. One, this collusion to steal the election thing is very unlikely to work. It's a very low probability success and very high risk, right? So you're going to work with the Russians effectively in opposition, if not enemy power, to the United States. You're going to sell yourself to them to win an election, and knowing all along that it's very unlikely they'd even be able to help you win that election. And then you have to just go through 4 years as president hoping that the American people don't find out you're a traitor because of this, when, as we saw, you could win without the Russians. So it never made sense. The president of the United States told me in the Oval Office the first time I was in a couple of years ago to talk to him, he said, Russia collusion, it's a dumb idea. It doesn't even make sense. And I said, exactly. This is not how you try to, how you try to steal an election? You know how you try to cheat in an election if you really wanted to? You'd make sure that there were no impediments to ballot harvesting and using mail-in ballots in a way that's completely untraceable, and you could just have people who, with a wink and a nod, no, they're just going to go out and collect from people when really they're going to ask everybody, oh, I'll fill it out for you, or oh, who's ever going to prove this or no? That would be a smart way in select districts and areas where it's going to, you don't do it across the whole country. You don't do this in Los Angeles. You don't do this in New York City. But if you're going to cheat, where would you do it? Certain counties in Ohio, certain counties in Florida, certain counties in Michigan, etc. That's how you would actually try to steal an election. Working with the Russians to do an oppo dump of DNC emails that the DNC emails didn't even do anything. It just showed that they were, screwing over Bernie, and we all knew that Bernie was getting the rough stuff from the DNC, so who cares? The theory never made sense, and it never had any proof, but they ran with it anyway. They're doing the same thing now with Russian disinformation. This would blow up in the Trump campaign's face at the worst possible moment. And I'm going to tell you this right now. It's still not clear to me that this is fatal for the campaign of Joe Biden. It's still not clear to me that this is going to end it, where he won't, he can't win because of this. Not at all, actually. I don't know how much this moves the needle with independents, but what it does show us, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is everything that you and I have thought about Joe Biden now ever since the story first came out was true. And that the Democrats do look the other way when it comes to their own corruption. The Democrats don't care about selling access. Hillary Clinton was a world-class expert at selling political office to the highest bidder. And it also shows us that the media is absolutely craven, and that our national journalistic establishment should not be considered something that anybody looks to for information or fairness or honesty now or certainly after this election. The media will never be the same. Informed, intelligent, honest Americans see our national news media when it comes to politics and recognize that they are broken beyond repair, and it's time for us to build something new. That's where we are as a country. But we still have an election to focus on, so let's do that too. I recently got a crash course in home title theft. You better hope this crime never happens to you. You see, it goes after your most valuable asset, your home, and it can ruin you financially. Here's what happens. The legal title to your home is online. It's stored in servers up in the cloud. A cyber thief hacks into this, finds your home's title, forges your signature on a quitclaim deed, and then they state that you sold your home to them. The loans are taken out against your home until your equity's gone and you're left in debt. Sometimes you won't even find out about this until a foreclosure notice comes in the mail. You won't know about this from the usual identity theft services. You have to go with Home Title Lock. Home Title Lock will create a virtual barrier around your home's title. The instant they detect tampering, they'll shut it down. Go to HometitleLock.com and use the promo code RADIO for 30 free days of protection. You can also register your address to see if you're a victim of this crime and don't even know it. That's HometitleLock.com, code RADIO for 30 free days of protection.
Mr. Biden, what is your response to the New York Post story about your son, sir?
I know you'd ask it. I have no response. It's another smear campaign. Right up your alley. They're the questions you always ask.
And you just...
You can kind of hear it there. I know this is one of these audio moments where I just want to play it so we show you the proof of it. But the the would-be president, Joe Biden here, when asked about what happened with Hunter in the emails, just was like, oh, I'm not going to answer it. Oh, I know you'd answer it. Oh. He just ignores this. I mean, it's very straightforward. He should either say the emails are fake or he broke no laws, and we've already talked about this. Or, there are things that he could say that he really should say, but instead he just figures the media will cover for him. Right now, he's planning, this is serious, I'm not making a joke, he's planning to not do any official press until Thursday, until the debate. He's calling a multi-day lid in advance, 2 weeks before Election Day. Sleepy Joe needs a lot of nap time, apparently. So he doesn't like this news cycle and what it's doing to his campaign. But I'm also here to warn you, friends. I just want to make sure our expectations are all in line with the probabilities here. I could be wrong. I don't think I am. I don't think this story alone is a game changer. Unless this part of the story is true. Did Joe Biden, and this comes up in the emails, did Joe Biden get a piece? Was there a kickback scheme from some of these Hunter Biden? And the Hunter Biden stuff is obvious influence peddling, obvious selling of access to office. And it's even worse than access. It's foreign policy decision making. Oh, yeah, Biden just happened to fire the prosecutor looking into corruption in Ukraine. We should ask Joe Biden, how many other countries' corruption prosecutors in his 8 years as vice president did he fire? Did he demand get fired, holding out $1 billion of cash from the U.S. taxpayer to that country as his leverage? And anybody want to take it? I'd be willing to bet the answer is zero. Zero prosecutors fired other than this one. But it's all a coincidence, you see. Yeah, that's right. They're coincidence theorists, sure enough. But I think what the media is hoping for is not that they can delay the entirety, they can stop the entirety of the Biden story. The best they can do is delay it, which is what they've already done. Try to take some of the heat, some of the intensity out of it, right? By spreading it out over, we don't know. Maybe it's disinformation. We haven't verified. Oh, social media shut it down. They're doing everything they can to try to suppress. But they know that the game over scenario is if they find out that Joe Biden was getting money from this, because, my friends, that also could be criminal. Depends on the circumstances and what we're able to prove. But if you are taking foreign policy actions in a foreign country on the explicit understanding that a member of your family is getting cash from people in that country, and you're getting a piece of that cash, that's quid pro quo, straight up criminal corruption. You can't commission chief in a state all of a sudden saying that, so-and-so can get a casino license because their buddies gave him cash under the table. It's no different. That people go to prison. They go to prison for a long time for that. It's taken very seriously. Public corruption cases, not of course when they involve Democrats unless they absolutely have to, but they're taken very seriously. So that could be the end of the Biden hopes for a win here, and the president's already out there saying it. Play 18.
Did you hear the new one? I was waiting for this. So they find this horrible laptop of Hunter. Where's Hunter? But Joe is far more corrupt than Hunter, because Joe knew Joe's getting a piece of everything. They have it in the email, 10% and 50%. But Joe is far more corrupt than Hunter.
Joe's more corrupt than Hunter, the president says, getting a piece. Well, that's a big problem. That's where this transfers for me from my assessment of this. It goes from, look, it's good that we know how scummy Democrats are and what a bunch of liars the media are, but people are still going to go into the polling booth and overwhelmingly vote on the economy and COVID response and all these other issues, healthcare. If Joe Biden's taking kickbacks when he's vice president from his ne'er-do-well son involving foreign policy for sale, that's Biden being dunzo, as the kids say. That's the end of that. And the media is going to do everything they can to prevent this from becoming the narrative.
So I ask you sincerely, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart, please keep me in your prayers. Pray I have the capacity to step up and do this job, because 4 more years of Donald Trump will fundamentally change the nature of this country for several generations. Pray for me, please.
Yeah, all of a sudden, Joe Biden's real breathy and real spiritual, prayerful. All of a sudden, he's a real man of God, you know. Used to be a man of the radical left and doing whatever they say and just making sure he gets those big donations from the credit card companies. But now he's practically a friar. He's like a monk on a mission to spread the faith. How much more insulting can they get? Insulting of our intelligence. Joe Biden here is telling you that 4 more years of Trump will fundamentally transform this country, which is fascinating because we've had 4 years of Trump. Does it feel like there's been some enormous tectonic shift in what is America? Well, I mean, yeah, we had a booming economy for 3 years and no new wars started and a government that acts with common sense instead of acts with this mentality that the government can fix all problems, which all history and common sense tells you is absurd. So, yeah, when we look at this issue, when we look at it, we see that he's making claims here that are just absurd. Why couldn't we handle 4 more years of Trump? We've already had 4 years of Trump. It's fine. It's gone well. Much better than what you have under Biden. That's really what I hope people start to focus on. What does it look like? Analysis published over the weekend, the Wall Street Journal, it says the average family under a Biden administration the average family. So average household income, it's in the high 40s, I think. It's close to 50 grand. It might be a little over, it might be a little below. But average household income right now has been very high. Put aside COVID, which is an anomaly, and it's fair to say this is an anomaly. But $6,500 less in your pocket for your household under a Biden plan when you add up all the taxes and regulations and everything else that they want to do. So in what way is this going to benefit you? How does your life get better under a Biden presidency? I think the answer is they don't have an answer. They just say a lot of things, but all the steps that he's saying, I'm going to listen to the scientists. Trump's been listening to scientists all along. Too much, in my opinion. But I understand the way the politics of this work. If you don't listen to the scientists, if you actually didn't listen to them, then you're, I don't know, even more of a mass murderer. They already say Trump is responsible for all of the deaths. They've completely lost their minds. But you're hearing a lot of things right now about this administration and about Trump that do not make sense. And it's meant to be something of a sensory assault. You hear enough lies from enough places, and the media amplifies it enough. They want you to question. They want you to question what it is that you know to be true, to unsettle you, and it may not work on you. A lot of you are laughing. You're like, yeah, Buck, that's never going to happen. I know, but they want to do this to enough people in the country that they might either force some people to stay home or other folks will change their mind on the way in to cast their ballot. You know, they see this and they say, yeah, I guess maybe 4 more years of Trump is too much. You know, you get people like this. Brian Stelter over at CNN. He's really sick of all this stuff. Is America getting Trump fatigue? Play 4.
Here's the question now, though. Is all the attention, all the airtime for Trump, is it working for him this time around? Or is it now working against him? I'm sure you heard about the ratings for the recent dueling town halls. Trump's town hall aired on 3 channels, and yet he still was outperformed by Biden, who was on just 1 channel alone. Now, is that the ultimate sign of Trump fatigue? If so, what does it mean? And how does the press need to make sure that we are providing balanced, fair coverage of both these candidates when there are so many natural differences in the newsworthiness of them?
Natural differences. My voice can't even go high enough here for Stelter, but natural differences in the newsworthiness of both of them. Yeah. One's the president, the other's a wannabe. How about that for a news difference right up front? Yes, Trump fatigue. Everything that they can now. Oh, Trump is going to start World War III. Trump doesn't care if people die from COVID. Trump is a white nationalist. Trump is a white supremacist. They're just trying to drown you in all this stuff. That flood the airwaves with it. There's no effort at balance. There's no attempt to be unbiased. This is why they're crazy. And it's so obvious they have to keep telling you how unbiased they are. It's so clear that they're rooting and actively working for a Biden win that they feel the need to lie to your face constantly about how they're just journos, man, just doing the job, just trying to speak truth to power. It's unreal. Is America experiencing Trump fatigue? No, I think we're experiencing some degree of political news fatigue just because we have to wade through so much crap, so many lies, so much dishonesty from really insecure, intellectually weak people. That's what we keep seeing all across the mainstream news. And it's maddening because I'd like to live in a country where people can, one, express their ideas freely with, not having Twitter and Facebook suppress their ideas because it's bad for one candidate. And then turn around and look all of us in the eyes and say, hey, we didn't mean to do that, man. Yeah, we didn't mean to suppress you guys. Just sort of terms of service and algorithms and, oh, man, it's complicated, man. No, it's not complicated. These places are overrun with libs, and they want Biden to win, and they can't emotionally handle the prospect of a Biden loss, so they're all going to do whatever they can. They've already done an enormous favor. You see, the damage has already been done here to Trump, to the truth, by suppressing the initial Biden story for 48 hours. Now, I know you'd say, but Buck, the media's caught all this backlash. Guess what? They don't care. They don't care. What? Oh, everyone's going to stop using Facebook? This is the part of it that nobody tells you, but I'll tell you. The social media giants are basically giant ATM machines that have monopolies on their areas, and nothing's going to change with them because of this. Yeah, they'll make some terms of service or whatever, and they'll throw some cute cat or, puppy gifs into your stream, and all of a sudden, the human gerbils all go back on the wheel of social media, and nothing ever changes. They're not worried about this. Just remember that. We got a long way to go here. I know there's going to be hearings on Capitol Hill. We're going to hear some great speeches from some very smart Republican senators. Nothing is going to happen. Not right now. Not given that we have an election that still needs to be won, that we have a divided Congress. And if we get a Biden administration, do you really think a Biden administration is going to say, let's break up the tech monopolies that probably saved the election for us? I think not. Again, this is where you come for the truth. There are other places where they take out the the cheerleader uniforms and whatever they think is going to just sell the most on that day. That's what they go with. I'm here to tell you what's really happening. So don't think the social media companies are all, oh no, what do we do now? What do they do now? Count their money all day. They're fine. And they've already done a lot. They've done a big service, I think, for the Biden campaign because that stall allowed the machinery of propaganda, all the counter narrative to get going. And now it's, the New York Times even did some jackass story over the weekend about how there was one person at the New York Post who didn't really want to sign on to the Hunter Biden story. First of all, what? And second of all, that person's an idiot. Because everything that we see here completely lines up. At some point you can turn this all into just silliness. Do we even know? I mean, how do you know who really won the presidential election? You weren't counting all the votes. At some point, for society to function, you got to take someone's word for it. I'm not saying, blindly believe those in authority. Quite the opposite. I think most of what I do here on the show that's of value, other than just bringing information, is telling you who's full of it and who's not. But there has to be somebody who's not. At some point, we have to start to agree that things are what they are. And the only way around the Hunter Biden email scandal is to reject that premise, is to insist that you can just create the reality you need in the moment. Doesn't matter that think about this. They've got the emails and they also have photos of Hunter Biden that are intimate. I mean, I haven't seen it. Apparently there's like sex tape kind of stuff on there too. So did the Russians run some kind of, honey trap for Hunter Biden? I mean, you could come up with crazy theories all day long. But nope, no serious person would believe this. And yet our media goes along with it. So just get ready for more of these theories, more of these lies about Trump. He's going to destroy the country if he gets 4 more years. That was one thing when when he was facing the first election, we had no idea how he'd govern. He's been a steady hand, done a good job. I'm not talking about his comments. I'm talking about his governance. He was a better president than I even thought he would be. And now they're going to tell you that with 4 more years, he's going to ruin the country? No, instead, let's put on 3-time loser that Democrats, and it wasn't like he was close. 3-time presidential loser in the past, Joe Biden. Yeah, let's give him a shot this time. Why? No one really seems clear on that. Other than Democrats need to pretend that it's not absurd. Speaking of absurd, you still have John Bolton. I can't believe the president and his team brought in this guy to be their national security advisor. It's remarkable. And I mean, he's a guy who really does think we should just, fight wars with countries that we really don't have to. And he's out there spreading this kind of nonsense too. Another lie about the president that he's not going to go if he loses or there's going to be some effort to stay in power. Play 15.
Do you have concerns about General Milley or Secretary Esper or Chief of Staff Meadows? I mean, is there anyone there to say, sir, you lost, you have to leave?
Well, I think the Defense Department is in good hands with Esper and Milley. I have no concerns there as long as they're still in office. But let's be clear. Trump will not leave graciously if he loses. He will not leave graciously. Whether he carries it to the extreme, I don't think we know. I think it's very troubling that he has said, I can't lose unless there's fraud. Of course he can lose in an honest election. And I think this is really on the leadership of the Republican Party, elected officials, private citizens, that if it's clear what the outcome is, it's up to Republicans, not Democrats, to say, this is on us, he's got to go.
So scummy. He won't leave graciously / maybe he'll refuse to leave. Really putting that out there for the viewers and the amusement of Jake Tapper. When you're doing the little dance on TV for Tapper as a former Republican national security advisor, whatever you thought you were, whatever you thought you stood for, it's all just been sold out. You're just a fraud. Bolton's become an outright fraud. I just can't imagine something more demeaning than dancing on TV for fake Tapper's amusement. It's gross. But people are getting really desperate right now at this stage of the election, friends. Get ready for more of it. Speaking of fake Tapper over at CNN, this was quite an ambush. And you gotta know whenever you go on CNN, they have no integrity to protect. They have no reputation that will hold them back. Not anymore. They ever did. I think they did. To be fair, CNN in the 90s, even into the 2000s, very different place than it is now. Always liberal, but now it's insane. Now it's a destroy Trump operation. But Laura Trump is a very nice lady. I've been on her show. And this is what happens when you go on fake Tapper's show. You get unfairly ambushed with some clip taken out of context after running a clip of a... So here's what they did. They ran a clip of a young boy who has a stutter who's saying that Joe Biden has like inspired him because Joe Biden apparently had a stutter. Now, the point about this is I didn't know Joe Biden had a stutter. I had never heard that before in my life. Okay, great. I had a speech impediment growing up. I beat it. I don't think that means that no one's allowed to make fun of me if I say something dumb or look like I'm out of it, right? I'm going to get made fun of if I start stumbling around my words. I don't get to play I had a speech impediment growing up, even though I did. I had to go to speech therapy. It took me a few years, had to work on it. Couldn't say my own name properly. True story. But that's not a defense for me. I'm not going to say to somebody, you can't make fun of me because... but you see, look at the way they set up. So they have the young boy who has a speech impediment, and which I have total sympathy for him because I was that boy, and he has a stutter, and they set this up so that Laura Trump makes fun of Joe Biden's word salads that come out of his mouth, and Jake Tapper's like, look at this boy who has a stutter who thinks that Joe Biden's his hero, and now you're making fun of Joe Biden's stutter. Does that seem like a nice thing to do? Total smear job, total fakery from fake Tapper. One of the biggest blanking blanks in the entire news media, for those who don't already know that from listening to the show. One of the worst people, the most dishonest, the fakest, like a psycho. Oh, wait, does he try to convince my friend Sean Parnell not to run for his congressional district? You see all those stories? Why would you call somebody to do that? Fake Tapper. Yeah, we'll talk more about that some other time. I don't think Fake wants to mess with me on that one. That would be unwise. But here we go. Here he is attacking Laura Trump, who's a very nice lady and trying to speak on behalf of the campaign. Play 9.
How do you think it makes little kids with stutters feel when they see you make a comment like that?
First and foremost, I had no idea that Joe Biden ever suffered from a stutter. I think what we see on stage with Joe Biden, Jake, is very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable.
You have
to
no.
watch somebody on stage
That's so amazing. It's so amazing to me
and try and figure out an answer.
A cognitive decline.
Well, when you're trying to tell me that what I was suggesting was
I think that you were mocking his stutter.
Yeah,
I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline. I would think that somebody in the Trump family would be more sensitive to people who do not have medical licenses diagnosing politicians from afar. Plenty of people have diagnosed your father from afar, and I'm sure it offends you. Your father-in-law from afar. I'm sure it offends you. You don't have any standing to say.
I'm not diagnosing him. What I'm saying, Jake,
you just talked
is
about
that
a cognitive decline.
That Joe Biden
I have one last question for you, Laura. You can't
times on stage, and it's very concerning to a lot of people that this could be the leader of the free world.
Okay,
that is all I'm saying. I genuinely feel
Laura
sorry
Trump.
for Joe Biden.
I appreciate it. I'm sure it was from a place of concern. We all believe that.
You feel all that Tapper slime? Just slimed this guest. I didn't know that Joe Biden allegedly had a stutter. How would she know Joe Biden had a stutter? She wasn't making fun of a stutter. She's making fun of the fact that he's, I'm Joe Biden, don't talk weird about it. We make fun of Joe Biden all the time. Oh, but now you should have seen the boy. I mean, this adorable young boy who, is overcoming his disability. I mean, the whole thing, it's, why do you hate puppies so much, Laura Trump? This is supposed to be the premier journalist at CNN. What a jerk.